What happens when a legendary actor, known for his intensity and charisma, faces a host who knows no boundaries in her provocations? This moment on The View became one of those rare events etched into the memory of viewers forever. No one was prepared for what unfolded when Robert De Niro, a two-time Oscar winner, took a seat across from Joy Behar. What began as a routine interview to promote a new film quickly spiraled into a tense battle of principles, dignity, and respect. A star takes the stage. The View studio buzzed with anticipation. Bright spotlights bathed the stage in warm light, and the live audience erupted in applause as the hosts, Joy Behar, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and Sunny Hostin, announced their guest. "Ladies and gentlemen, Oscar winner, cinema legend, Robert De Niro!" Whoopi exclaimed, and the room exploded with cheers. Cameras panned across the crowd, capturing excited smiles and eager faces. Some audience members already had their phones ready, sensing that an interview with such a star would be unforgettable. De Niro entered with his signature confidence, tempered by a slight smile that hinted at his restraint. His gray suit fit impeccably, and the silver in his hair added to his commanding presence. He waved briefly to the audience, nodded to the hosts, and settled onto the couch, crossing his legs. The atmosphere was warm. Sarah Haynes joked about his latest role in a crime drama, Sunny Hostin eagerly asked about his preparation process, and Whoopi lightened the mood by referencing his iconic scenes from Taxi Driver. But Joy Behar, seated closest to De Niro, watched him with a glint in her eye, a spark that foreshadowed a storm. "Robert, welcome to The View." Joy began with a wide smile, but her tone carried a hint of provocation. "You're here to talk about your new film, but you know, I've always thought you're an actor who avoids real conversations. You play these tough guys on screen, but in real life, aren't you a bit too cautious?" The audience fell silent, sensing the air in the studio grow heavier. The camera zoomed in on De Niro's face, his eyebrows raised slightly, but he remained composed. The provocation builds. De Niro responded with measured calm, laced with subtle irony. "Cautious? Sure, I just do my job. I act, I tell stories. Not everyone needs to be loud to say something." The audience rewarded him with light applause, but Joy pressed on. Leaning back in her chair, holding her note cards, she continued. "Oh, come on, Robert, you're no rookie. You're an icon, but why do you shy away from tough topics? Like the political situation. Everyone expects you to say something meaningful, but instead, we get another gangster movie. Doesn't that feel a bit detached from reality?" Sarah Haynes let out a nervous laugh, trying to defuse the tension. "Joy, give him a break, he just sat down." But Joy merely shrugged, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. Whoopi Goldberg, seated nearby, shot Joy a warning glance, but it went unnoticed. The audience began to whisper, and a few people held up their phones, recording the moment. Behind the scenes, producers exchanged worried looks through the glass wall, one of them speaking urgently into a headset. De Niro leaned forward, his voice quieter but firmer. "Joy, I tell stories that matter. Art isn't just entertainment, it's a way to show people the truth. You want me to shout about politics? I do it my way." His eyes narrowed, and his fingers twitched slightly, clenching into a fist. The tension in the studio mounted, and even the hum of the cameras swiveling above the stage seemed louder in the sudden silence. Joy, sensing she'd struck a nerve, doubled down. "The truth? Robert, you play mobsters and tough guys, but when it comes to the real world, you hide behind those roles. Don't you think people expect more courage from you? Like saying something about what's happening in the country instead of hiding behind another film?" Her tone was sarcastic, almost accusatory, and the audience gasped. Some shook their heads in disapproval, while others waited eagerly for De Niro's response. Sunny Hostin tried to intervene. "Okay, Joy, let's talk about the film. Robert, tell us about your new role." But Joy cut her off. "No, Sunny, I want to know why someone with Robert De Niro's influence avoids responsibility. You're not just an actor, you're a voice of a generation. Aren't you?" De Niro holds his ground, but cracks appear. De Niro leaned back, his face still calm, but a cold glint appeared in his eyes. He nodded slowly, as if weighing Joy's words, and said, "Responsibility? Joy, I've lived a long life, I've seen a lot. I don't shout on every corner because I believe actions speak louder. My films, my work, that's my way of telling the truth. And you want a show, don't you?" His voice was soft, but each word cut like a knife. The audience erupted in applause, but Joy didn't back down. She leaned closer, her smile sharper. "A show? Robert, this is a show. You're here, in front of millions of people. Why not say something real? Like your views. Or maybe you're just comfortable being a legend who doesn't rock the boat." The camera zoomed in on De Niro's face. His jaw tightened, and his fingers gripped the armrest of his chair. Whoopi Goldberg, sensing the situation spiraling, said, "All right, let's take a pause. Robert, tell us about your film." But her voice was lost in the mounting tension. Producers behind the scenes gestured frantically, one pointing at a clock to signal an approaching commercial break. But Joy, seemingly oblivious to the chaos, pressed further. "Robert, I just want the truth. You say your films are the truth, but don't they just distract from real issues?" De Niro stood up from his chair. The room froze. His movements were slow but deliberate, his gaze locked on Joy. "You know, Joy, I came here to talk about my work. But you want to dig into my life, my views, my soul. You want the truth? Here's the truth. People like you think they can judge everyone from that chair. But the truth is, art isn't a distraction, it's what keeps us human. And I'm not going to justify myself to you for doing what I do." His voice trembled with restrained passion, and the audience erupted in applause. Joy opened her mouth to respond, but De Niro raised a hand, silencing her. "I'm done," he said, turning to the audience. "You want to know who I am? Watch my work." De Niro Strikes Back. The View studio was frozen in time. Robert De Niro stood tall before the audience, his presence radiating calm but undeniable strength. His words, "I'm done," still echoed in the air, and his gaze, fixed on Joy Behar, was sharp as a blade. The audience, which had just erupted in applause, now sat in tense silence, waiting for what would happen next. Cameras hummed, swiveling to capture every moment. Producers behind the scenes gestured frantically, one clutching a headset and whispering about cutting to commercial, but the moment was too charged to stop the broadcast. Joy Behar, usually in control, looked momentarily rattled but quickly regained her composure. Her smile returned, though it felt forced. "Robert, come on, don't be so dramatic," she said, trying to inject levity into the conversation. "This is just a show, we're here to talk. You're not really leaving, are you?" Her tone was bold, but a hint of uncertainty crept into her voice. Whoopi Goldberg, seated nearby, pursed her lips, her eyes darting between De Niro and Joy. Sarah Haynes nervously fiddled with her pen, and Sonny Hostin stared at the floor, as if hoping the situation would resolve itself. De Niro slowly turned his head toward Joy. His eyes narrowed, and his voice dropped to a quiet, piercing tone. "Dramatic? Joy, you think this is a game? You sit here, throwing accusations, digging into my life, my work, and call it a show? I came here with respect, for you, for this audience, for the people watching. But you just want headlines. You want me to lose it so your ratings soar. Well, I'm not giving you that." The audience erupted in applause, louder this time, with shouts of support. Some stood, and several phones were already recording every word. The camera zoomed in on Joy's face. Her smile had vanished, replaced by a mix of anger and shock. She opened her mouth to respond, but De Niro didn't give her a chance. Turning to the audience, his voice grew louder but retained its dignity. "I don't hide behind my roles. My films are about people, their struggles, their triumphs, their mistakes. That's the truth I tell. And if you think I need to shout about politics to prove my courage, you don't understand what art is. Art isn't noise, it's soul." His words hit like thunder. The audience exploded in ovation, some wiping away tears. Even Sonny Hostin, who had remained silent, nodded in agreement. Whoopi Goldberg tried to intervene. "Robert, we appreciate your passion, let's talk about But De Niro raised a hand, stopping her. No, Whoopi, I've said what I needed to. He turned back to Joy, his gaze calm but unrelenting. You want the truth? Here it is, respect the people who come to you with an open heart. And don't use your platform to tear others down. Finale, an exit with dignity without another word, De Niro turned and walked off the stage. His steps, measured, confident, echoed in the stunned silence. The click of his shoes on the wooden stage floor was the only sound in the studio, aside from the audience's hushed whispers and the hum of cameras. Operators scrambled to capture his exit, while producers behind the scenes looked like their world had just collapsed. One waved frantically, signaling to cut to commercial, but the director seemed paralyzed by the moment. Joy Behar remained seated, her face a mix of shock and an attempt to save face. She tried to laugh it off. Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? But her chuckle was drowned out by the audience's roaring applause for De Niro. Some shouted, "Bravo, Bobby!" Others whispered angrily, accusing Joy of going too far. Whoopi Goldberg quickly took the floor, trying to salvage the situation. All right, folks, this is The View, and we're always here for real talk. Let's take a break and come back after the commercial. Her voice was strained but professional, though her concern was evident. As the show cut to commercial, the cameras shut off, but the chaos in the studio only grew. Producers argued heatedly backstage, one shouting into a phone, "It's already online! The clips are everywhere!" The audience buzzed, sharing videos on their phones. On social media, the moment was going viral. Hashtags #De Niro walks out and #Joy Behar began trending, and clips of De Niro's speech racked up millions of views. Epilogue. Aftermath and reflection. In the hours and days that followed, the clash between Robert De Niro and Joy Behar became one of the hottest topics in the media. Clips of his speech spread across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, with commentators dividing into two camps. Some accused Joy of unprofessionalism and crossing a line by attacking De Niro's personal views. Others defended her, arguing she was just doing her job by asking tough questions. De Niro himself remained silent on the incident, but his silence only added weight to his words in the studio. His reputation as a man of principle and dignity only grew stronger. For The View, the moment was both a crisis and an opportunity. The show saw record ratings, but producers faced criticism for letting the situation spiral out of control. Joy Behar posted a brief statement on Twitter, saying she didn't mean to offend, and that the show is about open discussion. But many saw her apology as half-hearted. The conflict left viewers with a question: who was right? Did De Niro do the right thing by walking out to defend his dignity, or was Joy justified in asking provocative questions? And most importantly, what does it mean to be a voice of a generation in an era where everyone craves a spectacle? Share your thoughts in the comments. Did De Niro do the right thing by leaving? Did Joy Behar go too far? And do you believe art can be more powerful than loud statements? Subscribe to stay updated on stories like this, and let us know your take.